Okay, let's start by taking a look at the Solaris oscillator section first. Across the top you'll see oscillator 1, 2, 3, and 4. And each of those oscillators can be set to a different type. The first type we're looking at is called the multimode 1, or MM1. And this has the following wave shapes: sine wave, triangle wave, ramp, which is a forward-going sawtooth, and saw, which is the downward sloping one. They sound the same. Pulse, now if you don't have any pulse width, if you're at 0, then you won't hear it. So you got to move the pulse width shape away from 0. And when you get to 50%, that's a square wave. And on the other end, when you get to 100%, it does disappear again. So that's just like a standard analog pulse width. Noise is white noise, and S/H is a tunable noise. So this noise will track the pitch control of this oscillator. Next type of wave is a morphing saw, and the morphing saw starts as a sine wave, and then it moves gradually towards becoming a saw at 100% of the shape. Following that, we have a morphing square. Again, it moves from 100% square wave to 0% sine. So morphing saw, morphing square. Jaws is a 7 sawtooth stack, and the detuning of it is controlled by the shape. So as I increase the shape, you'll hear it gets really out of tune there. Okay. So that makes up the wave shapes for the multimode 1. Now let's go to another type. Next one is called WT for wavetable. And when you select the wave, it actually is selecting a table of 64 wave shapes, and the shape will move within that table. So you can hear scanning through a number of wave shapes within that table of these two wavetables. Next type, it's called the CEM, or Curtis Electro Music. This is what we use in the Prophet 5. The Prophet 5 has 3 switches: saw, triangle, and pulse. And again, the pulse needs a pulse width shape so you can hear it. Otherwise you won't hear it at 0 or 100%. The Prophet 5 offers simultaneous wave shapes. So the way we do it here is saw plus triangle, saw plus pulse. And again, you can hear a little bit of change with the shape. Saw plus pulse, triangle plus pulse, or all 3 of them, saw, triangle, and pulse together. Next type is wave or sample playback oscillator, and this comes with empty locations, although we have some test samples in there for now. When you get it as a user, you will be loading your own samples over the USB port. The next type is the Prophet VS. And in the Prophet VS we have, they're also called wavetables by some people, but they're just actually single cycle waves. And there's 126 of these from the Prophet VS, from the original files. Changing a shape here would do nothing because the only control is just the discrete wave shape. I actually remember I made almost all of these wave shapes using a program we had where I could draw the levels or the amplitudes of 64 harmonics, or just take a mouse and move it around the screen and come up with a wave shape that sounded interesting to me. The last type we have is the Minimoog, and the Minimoog has a 6-position switch for wave shapes, and that's what we've got here: triangle, saw plus triangles, saw, and 3 different pulse settings. Now here, because the Minimoog had fixed pulse amounts, the shape actually doesn't change anything. So that's it. That gives you an idea of the basic oscillator types coming in version 1.0 of the Solaris. reassign it without a trigger, and then retrigger will reassign it with a new trigger. Envelope running. If you steal a voice and the envelope is already halfway through its process, the new voice will just take off from there and keep going, whereas shutdown will force a restart of the envelope when the voice is stolen. Okay. And these last two things are unison voice. This is only when unison key is pressed. There's a detune of the voices, and there's a selection of how many voices. Now, the first system is going to ship with 10 voices working. So if you were to dial up 5 univoice, that means when you turn on unison, you can play 2 keys of 5 voice each, stacked on each of the keys. Okay, so it's a unisono, I think some people have called it. And then the last mode, chord. If you hold down a chord and then press unison and then play a single note, you'll hear that entire chord stacked on that single note, and you can play up down the keyboard that way. Okay, now that was 1 of 4. Let's look at the second glide page. This has to do with the expression pedal and sustain pedal assignments, and also the 2 assignable buttons, which are to the left of the octave switches on the front panel. This down on the bottom row is the polarity for all of those, and for the 2 switches, momentary or toggle modes. The expression pedal and the sustain pedals have a few things they can be assigned to. This is just expression and pan at the moment, but the sustain pedals have a little bit more function. We have sostenuto, sustain, ribbon hold. That's the same parameter that where you don't have to hold down the ribbon. Sequencer on and arpeggiator on. Arpeggiator hold, which allows you to use the pedal to lock the arpeggiator on. And then arpeggio transpose. This is a new function wherein when you turn this on, everything that you've got in the arpeggiation is latched and then transposed from middle C. So if you play an E flat, then the whole thing, the whole arpeggiation will shift up a minor third, for example. Okay, so those are the assignments for the sustain pedals. The assignable switches have been expanded to have a lot of the glide control. This is global glide, the one I was showing you with the most recently. However, you can also independently control the glide of the 4 oscillators. So glide 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or you can glide all of the oscillators separately. And this is a different on and off glide than the global glide. You can also put the ribbon hold in there, the ARP transposition. Okay. Let's look at the third global page. Transpose and pitch wheel range, up and down, can be separate ranges. Beats per minute also gets stored here, as I may have mentioned. This is velocity table shape and velocity table sensitivity, aftertouch shape and scaling. And here you'll want to set this to something so that you can have velocity control. Okay, and now the last page in global is not really anything stored with a preset. It's information for us. We should move this page to the system probably, and it just tells us a little bit about what OS we're on, serial number, and so on. So that's it. Thanks very much for listening, and I hope you found this interesting, and see you next time. Bye-bye.